One random notification on my wife's laptop shattered my entire world. After 24 years of marriage, I discovered a secret that made me question everything about the woman sleeping beside me every night. I never thought I'd be writing a letter with ultimatums instead of confronting her. I never imagined I'd walk out our front door without a word. Now I'm faced with the hardest choice of my life, and either way, our family will never be the same. My name is Nathan Holloway. I'm 52 years old, married for 24 years to Olivia, and father to two great kids. We live in a nice neighborhood in Portland, Oregon, where people still wave to each other in the morning and borrow cups of sugar. The kind of place where you don't expect your life to fall apart on an ordinary Saturday afternoon. That's exactly what happened, though. It was mid-October, the leaves turning golden outside our kitchen window. Olivia was upstairs helping Connor with his science project, while I sat at the counter scrolling through football scores on my phone. Her laptop was open beside me, the screen showing her email. I wasn't snooping. I've never been that guy. But then a notification popped up. One new message from Victor Reed. I knew Victor. He was Olivia's colleague, someone she'd mentioned occasionally over the years. Nice enough guy from what little I knew. Married, two kids of his own. No reason his name should have made my stomach drop. Yet something in my gut twisted. Call it instinct or intuition. Whatever it was made me click that notification before I even realized what I was doing. Same time tomorrow. Remember to delete these messages. I miss the taste of you. My world stopped spinning. The message was part of a thread, dozens of messages back and forth. I scrolled up with numb fingers, each message worse than the last. Pictures, plans, intimate details that cut deeper than any knife. But what really caught my attention was the tone of Victor's recent messages. They'd grown demanding, threatening. What if Nathan found out? It would be a shame if these photos ended up somewhere public. Olivia's replies were panicked. Please stop. It was a mistake. I love my husband. I won't destroy my family. The room seemed to tilt around me. 24 years of marriage. 2 children. A life built brick by brick. And now this. I sat there for what felt like hours, though it couldn't have been more than minutes. I could hear Olivia and Connor laughing upstairs, the sound now surreal and distant. I thought about charging up there, confronting her, letting loose the volcano of rage building inside me. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I went to my office, closed the door, and took out a pen and paper. My hand shook as I wrote, but my mind was oddly clear. This wasn't going to be a screaming match. This would be deliberate, calculated, befitting the weight of what had happened. The letter flowed out of me. My pain, my anger, but also my conditions. What it would take for me to even consider saving our marriage. Complete honesty, therapy, and pressing charges against Victor for his blackmail attempts. As I folded the letter and placed it on her pillow, I heard Sophia, our 8-year-old, calling for me from downstairs. For a moment, I nearly broke. How could anyone risk losing this? But I composed myself, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door without looking back. I drove without destination, the letter I'd written burning in my mind like a fever. 24 years with Olivia, and this was where we'd ended up. The betrayal wasn't just the affair, it was the secrecy, the lies by omission, the casual way she'd sit across from me at dinner after being with him. Portland's familiar streets felt foreign now. I passed our favorite restaurant, the movie theater where we'd had our first date, the park where we'd taught Connor to ride a bike. Every landmark a reminder of what I thought we had. I should have been screaming, punching the steering wheel, letting loose the rage that simmered just beneath my skin. But something else had taken hold. A cold, calculated calm that scared me more than the anger. 2 hours of driving led me to Jason's cabin by Mount Hood. Jason Wright had been my best friend since college, before he'd moved out here 5 years ago after his own divorce. I hadn't called ahead, but when he opened the door and saw my face, he just nodded and stepped aside. Want to talk about it? He asked, handing me a whiskey. Not yet. The glass felt heavy in my hand. Mind if I crash here for a few days? Stay as long as you need. He didn't press for details, and I was grateful. That night, my phone lit up with Olivia's messages. Where are you? Please call me. Nathan, I'm worried. Each notification was a twist of the knife. I turned the phone face down and stared at the ceiling. By morning, the messages had grown desperate. I found your letter. Please come home so we can talk. I'm so sorry, Nathan. Please give me a chance to explain. The kids are asking where you are. What should I tell them? That last one nearly broke me. Connor and Sophia, the true casualties in all this. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. On the third day, a text came through that knocked the wind out of me. Not from Olivia, but from Connor. Dad, when are you coming home? Mom's been crying a lot. I don't know what's happening, but it feels bad. Please come back. 14 years old, and caught in the middle of his parents' mess. I'd never felt like more of a failure. Jason found me on the porch that evening, staring at the mountains. He handed me another whiskey and finally asked, "What happened?" So I told him everything. The messages. Victor. The blackmail. You know the crazy part. I said, my voice hollow. Part of me still loves her. After everything. Jason was quiet for a long moment. My ex cheated too, he finally said. Never told anyone that before. I looked at him, surprised. What did you do? Divorced her the next day. He swirled his drink. Sometimes I wonder if that was the right call. If there might have been something worth saving. His words hung in the mountain air between us. Then he said something that changed everything. You know, I saw Victor Reed at a conference last year. Guy couldn't keep his eyes off any woman under 40. He's done this before, Nathan. Olivia might not be his first victim. That word, victim, struck me differently than I expected. Was Olivia a victim? The blackmail suggested she tried to end it. What if there was more to this story than what I'd seen in those messages? On the 5th day, I packed my bag. It was time to go home and face whatever waited there. The drive back to Portland felt longer than it had 5 days ago. Each mile closer to home brought a fresh wave of dread, mixed with determination. I still had no idea what I was walking into, or even what I wanted the outcome to be. When I pulled into our driveway, I sat in the car for several minutes, gathering myself. The house looked exactly the same. How could that be when everything else had changed? It was Connor who spotted me first. The front door flew open, and he came running out, all gangly teenage limbs and visible relief. Dad! He hugged me tightly, something he hadn't done in years. You're back. Over his shoulder, I saw Sophia peering from the doorway, uncertain. When our eyes met, she broke into a sprint and crashed into me with enough force to make me step back. Daddy, you were gone forever, she said, face buried in my shirt. Just a few days, sweetheart. I managed, my throat tight. I needed to clear my head. They didn't ask questions, which somehow made it worse. Had they sensed trouble brewing long before I had? Where's your mom? I asked, steering them back toward the house. In the kitchen, Connor said, his expression suddenly guarded. She has someone with her. My heart seized. Had Victor dared to come to my home? But when I walked into the kitchen, the woman sitting with Olivia wasn't familiar. Olivia looked up, her face pale and tear-stained. For a moment, we just stared at each other, 24 years of history hanging in the balance. Nathan, she whispered. You came back. The stranger stood, extending her hand. Mr. Holloway, I'm Laura Reed, Victor's wife. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Victor's wife was here, sitting at my kitchen table with my wife. The woman her husband had been having an affair with. Kids, I said without taking my eyes off the women. Please go upstairs for a while. After they reluctantly left, Laura Reed spoke first. I found out about the affair last week. I've been tracking Victor's messages for months. This isn't his first time. Olivia's hands trembled around her coffee cup. Nathan, I need you to hear everything before you make any decisions. Laura nodded. Victor has a pattern. He picks women he works with, usually ones in vulnerable positions. He's charming at first, then manipulative. By the time they realize what's happening, he has compromising photos or messages he can use against them. I looked at Olivia, whose eyes were fixed on the table. Is that what happened? She nodded, tears spilling. After my mother died last year, I was a mess. He was supportive at first, just a friend. Then it changed so gradually I didn't see it coming. The affair. I asked, the words still bitter on my tongue. It happened once, she whispered. I ended it immediately. Told him it was a terrible mistake. That's when the threats started. Laura pulled out a folder. I've collected evidence against Victor from 3 other women. Text messages, emails, all showing the same pattern of behavior. I'm filing for divorce and pressing charges for harassment. She looked at me directly. Your wife isn't blameless, Mr. Holloway, but she's also not the only one responsible for what happened. After Laura left, Olivia and I sat in silence. Finally, she slid a USB drive across the table. Everything's on here, she said quietly. All the messages. The threats. My attempts to end it. I was too ashamed to tell you. Too afraid of losing you and the kids. But you deserve the whole truth. She'd read my letter. She knew my terms. This was her answering them. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she continued, her voice steadier now. Just a chance to rebuild what I nearly destroyed. I picked up the drive, weighing it in my hand along with our future. I'll look at this, I said. But I need time, Olivia. And I need you to understand that coming back doesn't mean I've made a decision yet. She nodded, hope and fear warring in her eyes. I understand. That night, I slept in the guest room, the USB drive untouched on the nightstand. Some truths needed to wait just a little longer. Morning came with no answers, just the weight of decisions that couldn't be postponed much longer. I found myself staring at the USB drive Olivia had given me, turning it over in my hands like some ancient artifact with the power to heal or destroy. I went downstairs early, before anyone else was up. The house felt different, heavy with unsaid words. In the kitchen, I made coffee and plugged the drive into my laptop. What I found was exactly what both Olivia and Laura Reed had described. Messages showing Victor's gradual manipulation, Olivia's clear attempt to end things after one encounter, and his subsequent threats. The timestamps aligned with her story, her mother's death, her depression afterward, Victor's initial support turning predatory. None of it excused the betrayal, but it painted a more complex picture than I'd initially seen. I was still sitting there when Olivia came downstairs. She hesitated in the doorway, noticing the open laptop. "The kids are still asleep," she said quietly. I nodded, closing the computer. "We need to talk." We moved to the back porch, steam rising from our coffee mugs in the cool morning air. For a moment, neither of us spoke, the weight of 24 years hanging between us. "I've looked at everything," I finally said. "I believe what happened with Victor. I believe you tried to end it." She nodded, relief washing over her face. "But," I continued, my voice hardening, "you still made the initial choice, Olivia. You could have come to me when he started threatening you. We could have faced it together." "I know," she whispered. "I was ashamed, terrified of losing you and the kids. It felt like quicksand. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank." "I need to know why," I said. "Why him? Why risk everything we built?" Olivia's hands trembled around her mug. "After Mom died, I was in a dark place. You remember how it was? I could barely get out of bed some days. You were patient at first, but then what?" I pressed. "You started withdrawing, working later, planning more golf weekends. I felt like you were pulling away when I needed you most. I started to protest, then stopped, memories clicking into place." She wasn't wrong. Her grief had been overwhelming, and I'd retreated into work rather than facing it with her. "You're right," I admitted. "I didn't know how to help you, so I distanced myself. That was my failure, and mine was turning to someone else instead of telling you how abandoned I felt," she said. "Victor saw my vulnerability and exploited it, but I made the choice to let him in, even for a moment." We sat in silence, both acknowledging our roles in the fracture of our marriage. "So where do we go from here?" she finally asked. "I don't know," I answered honestly, "but I'm willing to try if you are. My conditions from the letter still stand. Complete honesty from now on, professional help, and reporting Victor. I've already called a therapist," she said, "and Laura and I are going to the police together tomorrow." Just then, Connor appeared in the doorway, eyeing us warily. "Is everything okay?" I looked at Olivia, then back at our son. "Not yet," I said, "but we're working on it." Sophia pushed past her brother, her small face serious. "Are you fighting?" Jenny's parents fought, and now her dad lives in an apartment. I felt my heart constrict. "Come here, both of you." As they approached, I pulled them into a hug. "Your mom and I have some things to work through. It might be tough for a while, but we're going to be honest with you every step of the way." Over their heads, Olivia's eyes met mine, filled with tears and something else, determination. We had a long road ahead, but at least now we were facing in the same direction. A week after my return, we existed in limbo, not reconciled, but not separated. Olivia had moved to the guest room without me asking. I'd taken time off work to be with the kids, whose cautious smiles were slowly returning. Today, Olivia and Laura Reed were giving statements to the police. I waited in the parking lot of the precinct, having driven Olivia there to show support, however tenuous our situation. Laura arrived precisely at 10, face set with determination. "Thank you for standing by her," she told me. Not every husband would. I wasn't sure how to respond. Was I supporting Olivia, or just ensuring Victor faced consequences? Maybe both. 20 minutes later, a sharp tap on my window broke my concentration. I looked up to see Victor Reed, smiling coldly. "Nathan Holloway," he said. "Finally we meet in person." Rage coursed through me. This was the man who had touched my wife, threatened her, nearly destroyed my family. I forced myself to stay calm. "You need to leave," I said, my voice controlled. "I just want to talk," Victor replied smoothly. "There are things you should know about Olivia, like the fact that I wasn't the first." The accusation hit like a body blow, but something felt rehearsed, manipulative. "You're lying," I said, with more confidence than I felt. "Ask her about the late nights at the office. Ask her why she changed gyms so suddenly." For a heartbeat, doubt crept in. Then I remembered the evidence I'd seen, the timeline that matched Olivia's story. "I know exactly who my wife is," I said firmly. "And I know who you are. A predator who uses lies because he's not man enough to earn honest affection." "Victor Reed," came a voice from behind him. Detective Ramirez stood there with an officer. "We'd like to speak with you inside." When Olivia emerged later, her face showed exhaustion but relief. "They're investigating him for harassment." Laura had 3 other women come forward. "Victor was here," I told her. "He tried to tell me you'd had other affairs." Olivia turned to me, face pale. "Nathan, I swear on our children's lives, there was only Victor, and only that once." I studied her face for any deception. There was none, just raw honesty. "I believe you," I said finally, and I meant it. 2 weeks after the confrontation with Victor, we were settling into a new rhythm. Olivia and I had attended 3 therapy sessions with Dr. Chun, who didn't let either of us hide behind excuses. "Your marriage didn't break in a day," she told us, "and it won't be repaired in a day either." At home, we were cordial, sometimes even friendly. I'd moved back to our bedroom, though we maintained physical distance. The kids watched us with a hypervigilance of children who've glimpsed the fragility of their world. Saturday morning, Connor knocked on my office door, his expression unusually serious. "Dad, can we talk?" I set aside my laptop. "Sure, buddy. What's up?" He sat across from my desk. "I know what happened with Mom and that guy Victor." The statement hit me like a blow. "What do you mean?" "I overheard Mom on the phone months ago," he explained. "She was telling someone named Laura that she couldn't take the threats anymore, that she'd made a mistake." "Connor." "Dad, I'm not a little kid," he interrupted, suddenly looking older. "I know Mom did something bad with that guy, and then he wouldn't leave her alone." I took a deep breath. "You're right. That's essentially what happened." "Are you going to divorce her?" he asked bluntly. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "We're working through things." "But you still love her, right?" Despite everything, the answer came without hesitation. "Yes, I still love her." "Good, because she messed up, but she's still Mom. And she cries at night when she thinks no one can hear." I hadn't known she was crying at night. "Sophia knows too," Connor added. "Not everything, but she asked me if you're going to leave again." "What did you tell her?" "I told her no way, that you're too stubborn to give up on us." That night, I reached for Olivia's hand as we sat on the couch. Her surprise melted into tentative hope as our fingers intertwined. We weren't fixed, but it was a start. Our 5th therapy session with Dr. Chun started like the others. Uncomfortable silences, carefully measured words, emotional landmines we both navigated around. But 30 minutes in, something shifted. "Nathan," Dr. Chun said, leaning forward slightly, "you've talked about Olivia's betrayal, but I sense there's something deeper you haven't addressed." I shifted in my seat. "What do you mean?" "You mentioned feeling replaced when Olivia turned to Victor. Tell me more about that." The question hit a nerve I didn't know was exposed. "Replaced? I don't think." "It's okay to be honest here," she interrupted gently. Suddenly, words I hadn't planned burst forth. "Fine. Yes, replaced. Obsolete. Like I was so easily substituted when things got tough." My voice grew rough. 24 years together, and all it took was a few months of difficulty for her to find comfort elsewhere. Olivia flinched beside me. "And that scared you?" Dr. Chen observed. "Scared?" I scoffed. "Yes. It made you question your value, your place in her life." The accuracy of her assessment left me momentarily speechless. It wasn't just the betrayal that haunted me. It was the fear that I wasn't enough, that I never had been. Nathan, Olivia broke in, tears streaming down her face. That's not what happened. I didn't replace you. I lost myself. After Mom died, I couldn't feel anything except grief. Victor didn't matter to me. He was just there when I couldn't bear the numbness anymore. Then why him? I demanded. Why not come to me? Because you were pulling away, and I was ashamed of how broken I was. Her voice cracked. You've always been so strong, so capable. I didn't want you to see me like that. A mess who couldn't even get out of bed some days. So you thought I'd judge you? After 24 years. No, she whispered. I judged myself, and projected that onto you. Dr. Chen nodded. This is important. You both retreated when you needed each other most. Olivia into her grief, Nathan into work. The affair was a symptom, not the disease. The session ran over by 30 minutes, but when we left, something had changed. In the car, Olivia spoke quietly. I never stopped loving you, Nathan. Not for a single day. I reached across the console and took her hand. I know, I said, and realized it was true. That night, we slept in the same bed for the first time in weeks. Not touching, but no longer separated by walls of resentment. It was a small step, but in the right direction. The county courthouse was imposing, all marble and stern faces. 6 weeks after our initial police report, Olivia and Laura Reed were testifying at Victor's preliminary hearing. The district attorney had decided to pursue charges of harassment, blackmail, and emotional abuse against him. I sat in the back row of the courtroom, watching Olivia approach the witness stand. She looked smaller somehow, but her spine was straight as steel as she took the oath. For nearly an hour, she recounted everything. Her vulnerability after her mother's death, Victor's gradual manipulation, the affair she'd immediately regretted, his subsequent threats and blackmail. Her voice wavered occasionally, but never broke. Throughout her testimony, Victor stared at her with cold eyes. Twice, he leaned to whisper something to his attorney, a smug smile crossing his face. I dug my fingers into my palms to maintain control. When it was over, Olivia walked past Victor without a glance. She sat beside me, her hand finding mine. I squeezed it firmly, a silent affirmation that she wasn't alone. Laura testified next, presenting evidence of Victor's pattern of behavior with other women. 2 more women followed with similar stories. By the time court adjourned, Victor's smug expression had vanished. Outside the courthouse, the district attorney approached us. The judge is moving the case forward to trial. Based on the evidence and testimony, we're in a strong position. What happens now? I asked. We've offered a plea deal. If he accepts, he'll serve time and register as a sex offender. If not, we go to trial. Olivia's hand trembled in mine. I'll testify again if needed, she said quietly. The DA nodded. You did well today, Mrs. Holloway. As we walked to our car, Olivia stopped suddenly. Thank you for being here. I wouldn't have had the strength without you. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. The woman who had made a terrible mistake. The woman who had found the courage to face her abuser in court. The woman I still loved, despite everything. You're stronger than you think, I told her. You always have been. On the drive home, Olivia received a text from Laura. Victor had accepted the plea deal. He would serve 18 months and be required to register as a sex offender upon release. It's really over, Olivia whispered. Not everything was over, I thought. Our healing was just beginning. But with Victor out of our lives, we could finally focus on rebuilding what was broken between us. That night, for the first time since my discovery, I held my wife as she cried. Not tears of guilt or shame, but of relief and release. 3 months after Victor's sentencing, our family was finding its footing again. Therapy continued, though we'd reduced sessions to bi-weekly. The kids had settled back into their routines. Connor's anxious hovering gradually replaced by typical teenage indifference, while Sophia's constant need for reassurance had eased. It was Sophia who surprised us one evening at dinner. We should have a do-over, she announced between bites of spaghetti. A do-over of what, sweetheart? Olivia asked. Of your wedding promises. She twirled pasta around her fork. Miss Peterson got divorced, and then she met Mr. Rodriguez, and they had a vow renewal. She showed us pictures. Everyone was happy. Connor rolled his eyes. Mom and Dad aren't divorced, squirt. I know that, Sophia huffed. But they went through a hard time. So maybe they need new promises. Olivia and I exchanged glances across the table, out of the mouths of babes. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, we sat on the back porch. The fall air was crisp, stars scattered across the Portland sky like diamond dust. "What do you think about Sophia's idea?" Olivia asked, wrapping her cardigan tighter. I considered it. 6 months ago, I couldn't have imagined recommitting to our marriage. Now, after the pain and healing, the idea held unexpected appeal. "I'm not opposed," I said carefully, "but it would need to be genuine, not just for show." She nodded. "I've been thinking about something similar, actually. Not a big ceremony, but something meaningful. Just for us. Maybe where we first met." I suggested. "Downtown by the old fountain." Olivia smiled. "Or somewhere that represents who we are now, not who we were then." 2 weeks later, Jason opened his cabin to us for the weekend. We left the kids with Olivia's sister and drove to Mount Hood, the same place I'd fled to in my darkest moment. "Why here?" Olivia asked as we arrived. "Because this is where I decided to come home," I told her. "Even in my lowest moment, I couldn't imagine a life without you in it." Standing by the lake at sunset, no officiant or audience, we spoke new vows. Not the optimistic promises of young love, but the hard-earned commitments of a marriage tested by fire. "I can't promise I'll never hurt you," Olivia said, her eyes steady on mine. "But I promise to choose you, to fight for us, to be honest, even when it's painful, every single day for the rest of our lives." I took her hands in mine. "I promise to listen before I walk away, to be your partner in grief as well as joy, to remember that love isn't just a feeling, but a daily choice." As we exchanged these vows, I felt something shift inside me, the last shard of resentment melting away, replaced by a deeper understanding of what it meant to truly love someone, flaws and all. That night, we made love for the first time since before Victor had entered our lives. It wasn't the passionate reunion of romance novels, but something more profound. Two broken people finding wholeness in each other's arms. In the morning, as sunlight filtered through pine trees, Olivia rested her head on my chest. "Do you think we'll make it?" she asked softly. I kissed the top of her head. "I think we already have." Early morning sunlight spilled through our bedroom windows as I sipped coffee, watching Olivia still asleep beside me. 18 months had passed since that weekend at Jason's cabin, where we'd renewed our vows. 18 months of continued healing, occasional setbacks, and gradual rebuilding. The affair and its aftermath had left their mark on us, like a scar that occasionally pulls when the weather changes. We'd never be the same people we were before, but perhaps that was for the better. Victor had been released from prison 3 months ago. Laura had reached out to warn us, but there'd been no contact. According to her, he'd moved to California after his release, making a fresh start far from the wreckage he'd left behind. Olivia stirred beside me, her eyes fluttering open. "Morning," she murmured. "How long have you been awake?" "Not long." I handed her my coffee mug, a morning ritual we'd fallen into. "Happy anniversary." She smiled, taking a sip. 18 months since the cabin. Hard to believe. Today was significant for another reason too. Our final therapy session with Dr. Chun was scheduled for this afternoon. After so many months of working through our issues, she'd finally declared us ready to continue our journey without her guidance. "Do you think we're ready?" Olivia asked, reading my thoughts as she often did these days. "For life without training wheels." I considered the question. "I think so. We've got the tools now." She nodded, setting the mug on the nightstand. "I've been thinking a lot about forgiveness lately." "What about it?" "People talk about it like it's this grand, definitive moment. Like you wake up one morning and decide, today I forgive, and that's it." She traced patterns on the bedsheet. "But it's not like that, is it?" "No," I agreed. "It's more like waves. Some days the tide is out, and you feel at peace. Other days it rushes back in, and you have to choose forgiveness all over again." It was something we discussed often in therapy, the nonlinear nature of healing. There were still moments when the pain would resurface unexpectedly. Seeing a text notification on Olivia's phone, hearing Victor's name, remembering those first dark days after discovery. But those moments were fewer now, and less overwhelming when they came. Olivia reached for my hand. "I'm still sorry, you know. That won't ever change." "I know." I squeezed her fingers. "But I'm not holding on to it anymore. And that was the truth. The anger that had once consumed me had mellowed into something more complex. A deep understanding that people, even those we love most, can fail us profoundly. And that sometimes, loving them anyway is the bravest choice we can make. Connor knocked on our door, already dressed for his weekend job at the local hardware store. Mom? Dad? Sophie is trying to make pancakes, and it's not going well. We laughed, the serious moment broken. Coming, Olivia called, slipping out of bed. As we headed downstairs to rescue her kitchen, I realized something important. This was what forgiveness actually looked like. Not dramatic declarations or profound epiphanies, but simply living, moving forward together, creating new memories that gradually outweighed the painful ones. What are you thinking about? Olivia asked as we reached the bottom of the stairs. I pulled her close for a moment, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. That I'm glad I stayed, that we fought for this. She leaned in me briefly before Sophia's panicked call from the kitchen pulled us apart. Life wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was ours, battle-scarred, hard-won, and ultimately, worth every difficult step of the journey.